we'll carry forward with our discussion on array methods. So in the previous class, we are looking at certain array methods, right? Basic array methods. We have seen how to declare an array, how to access the elements within an array. We have seen the properties of arrays in JavaScript. We have also seen basic methods. I think you can remember all these basic methods that we discussed in the previous class. Basic methods like shift, unshift, join, pop, push, slice, splice. So we have taken a demonstration for all these things. In today's class, we'll take a look at more of the array methods. This is session 2. What is it we are going to discuss is we'll discuss more of the array methods like these are called iteration methods, and methods like filter, map, forEach. We'll take methods like sum, every, and other methods too, which we are going to take a look at like reduceRight. So many methods we'll take a look at. So we call these methods to be iteration methods. There is a concept behind this, that is, let me have an array, let me declare an array like this, and let me have some numbers here 2, 3, 4, 6, 7. Now these methods, the main concept is a function will be called for every value inside the array. So when you're working with these methods, what is the key concept here? For every value inside the array, say if I take 2, I'll be calling a function passing this value 2 to that function, and then we'll be processing that value inside the function. It may be filtering the values, it may be returning an array of values by mapping each value to a function. So there are a lot of variations. So what is that we are going to do here is for each value, when you say it's an iteration method, for each value in the array, we will invoke a function. That's what we are going to do. So we have not yet studied functions. Functions in JavaScript is still pending, but I'll just give you a very brief introduction for functions here. So how you declare a function in JavaScript is you give the keyword function, and then you can give the function name. So here I can call give a function name as display, and you can also pass some arguments to the function. You don't give it to be let x or let y, you just give some arguments separated with a comma. So you don't mention let x, let y, or constant x, constant y. And from within the function, let me console log x. So this is a function, and how will you call this function? Say you can call this function by using the function name. This is the same thing as you did in any other programming language, and then you pass the arguments here 3, 2. So that's how you. So now 3 gets mapped to x, 2 gets mapped to y. When you console log x, what will be the output here? It will be 3. So this is how you create a function. Function keyword, function name, followed by arguments. You don't pass the parameters like, I mean, you don't declare the parameters like this. This is one common mistake we may do because we are used to such kind of declarations in other programming languages. So have this in mind. Just give the variable names, and then you can process these variables within the function. So these variables, you can access that only within these two parentheses within the function. So they have some scope here, scope limitation. Understood? So how you call this function? You call that, you give the name and then you pass the parameters. Or you're clear with a simple function declaration here. So functions can also return values. This is another very important thing. For instance, I can return x star y. Return the same property of return statements in other programming languages. So it returns a value. When it is returning a value, it is mandatory for us to capture that in some variable, say let result. So it will return some value and we'll log that result out. So what is getting passed here? X is getting 3, Y is getting 2, and 3 star 2 will be returned, which will go to result, and we are logging in result. Let's run this. So 6 is the result. So we'll be having a separate full length session on functions because functions form the basic blocks here. So we have to fully concentrate on functions maybe in the later sessions. For now, for understanding these methods, this kind of an introduction to functions is enough. So what is the concept here? For every value inside my array, I'll be calling a function. And this function will process those values and return as some arrays or results, some boolean values, something like that. So let's take a look at the first method, filter method. Are you clear with the simple introduction to functions? Now let's take a look at the first method, the filter method. So what is the use of filter method? A very interesting method in JS. So it is used for filtering the values inside an array. So what do you mean by filtering the values? Say I want to get all the values greater than 2 from this array. I can perform that. Just filter all the values greater than a certain value. I can perform that. So what will be the return type for this filter method is it will return an array. So it will return an array. Let me call this method. So how will I call this? Array name dot filter. That's how I call it. And what is this filter method returning? It will return another array. So I'll call that constant result. So it will return an array of all those elements which match that condition. The next thing is I should be calling a function that will perform the filtering operation. So I'll call this function called filter function. I'll just use some function name here. I'll just call that function called filter function. Now we should write this filter function. So the keyword is function, filter function, and then this function actually takes three arguments. One is the value from the array, the next one is the index, and the final one is the array itself. So this is a standard. Whenever you are calling a function, filter function, I mean this function can be any name. You can give any name, but I'm saying it's filter function. So this function takes in three values. Value is nothing but the value inside the array. Index is the index corresponding to that value. Array is the entire array itself. So these three inputs we get, and then we can perform this filtering like this: return all the value, say return all the value greater than 2. That's it. Let me again repeat this. What is happening here is this method will iterate through every value in the array. So first 2 will be taken, it will be mapped to value. So here what will be the argument here? 2, index is 0, the array is the entire array 2, 3, 4, 6, 7. And now what is that? It will check return value greater than 2. Is 2 greater than 2? No. So 2 will not be returned to the array. I mean this result will not contain 2. Now it will go to 3. Next iteration goes to 3. So what will be the value here? 3, index will be 1, and array will be the entire array. Return value greater than 2. So now you can think of this result to be an array, right? So result, you just imagine result to be an array. Result is something like this, right? First 2 was not added, but 3 is 3 greater than 2? Yes, so it will be returning. So 3 will go to this array. Likewise, it takes 4. So it takes every element. For every element, this function is getting called. That is the key here. For every value, the function is getting called. Whenever the function is getting called, what are the arguments being passed here? The value, actual value is now 4. The index is 2. The entire array is getting passed. So now it will check return value greater than 2. Is 4 greater than 2? Yes. So 4 will be moved to the result array. So like this, for every value we can filter. Finally, after that entire array is filtered, we can go and console log the result. Let's run this. We'll see 3, 4, 6, 7. This is the result array. So filtering is used for filtering the values inside an array. Are you clear with the filter method? See, we can have some variations to filter. It's not only numbers. I can have some uh, subjects here. Let's say Java, Python, OS, networks, something like this. Now, I want to filter. Maybe I'll have JavaScript too. So why to leave JavaScript? Let's have JavaScript too. See, now the concept is I want to filter only subjects with the name Java from this array. How to filter that? So you can go with return. See, we are just working in the value. So you can also skip index and array. So this is for the syntax I showed. You're just working with the value inside the function. So you can even skip writing index and array. So you can say return all the values that equals Java. So what's happening here? It takes Java. Is Java equals Java? Yes. So it goes to the result array. Whereas other things, we don't have Java equals Java, right? That condition will be false. So result array will not contain that. Now when you execute this, you will see the output to contain only Java. So you can perform any kind of filtering. Say I want to just filter all the items that contains Java. Then Java and JavaScript will be part of that output, right? So here you have to look at string methods. We have already worked with string methods in our previous class. We looked at some string methods. So what is that you can do? Value dot includes uh, we can say Java. So if the value includes Java, then that will be part of the output. Now when I run this, what will be the output here? Java and JavaScript. So you can very well design any kind of filtering criteria for your arrays, and it filters and throws that output. Okay, so now let's move on to the next method. That is, can I move on to the next method? The next method is we'll take a look at for each method. For each method, let me delete all these things. For each method. So for each method, again the concept is something like this. Say I'll have an array. If you understood filter, most of the concepts are somewhat similar. So I'll have an array. I'll have some numbers here. And now the concept here is for each value, a function will be called. For each value, a function will be called, but this is not going to return anything. It's not going to return an array. So for each method will not return an array, will not return anything. You'll just call a function. That's it for each value. So we'll see what is this for each method. Let's take a look at. Have I declared constant? Okay, this. Let me delete this. You can't have two arrays with the same name and the same scope. That's the issue here. So let's have only one array. And what is it we are going to do here is for each method we'll call. So this is not going to return anything. So how is that you call that x dot for each? And now you are going to call a function. Maybe I'll call this test function, something like that. I'll call this test function. Got it. Now you have to code this test function. How will you code this? You give the function name test function, and then see you're going to have three arguments by default. That is value, index, array. If you're just going to work on the value inside this, you can use only value. See, I can console log value and index. See, I'm just console logging value and index inside the array. So what will be the output here? It'll take this function will be called for every value, right? So first will be 2, 0, index will be 0. Next will be 3, 1, 4, 2, like that. So now you see when you run this, let's take a look at the output here. This is what I was saying. You see this function is called for every value. Say first it's 2, index is 0, so 2 and 0. Next it goes to 3. Next it goes to 3, so again it is 3 and 1, 4 and 2, like that. So you can see this iterates through the entire array. For every value a function is getting called. How it is different from filter? Filter is used for filtering the elements based on a certain condition. For each is just going to call a function for every element. It's not going to return any arrays here. Whereas filter will return an array. So you can perform anything here. See, I've just logged the value. If you want to just work on the value, you can ignore this index and array, and you can very well console log. Just you can very well console log something like this. Say value star 2. I just multiply every value by 2 so that you get the output. The result will be every value multiplied with a 2. 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. Let me move on to the next concept, that is map method, another very important method. Map method in JS. So what is the use of map method? It's again a function call for every value inside the array. Say I'll have 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, something like this. And again, it's going to be a function call. So x dot map is the method, and we are going to call some function here. We can write any function. I'm saying it's map function. So it's very much like the for each method, but here this map method returns an array. So it returns an array. You call a function and then you return an array. So it's like constant result. And what is it we are going to do in this map method is we'll have a function, map function. So we'll code this map function. We'll just get the value. And what is it we can perform here is we can perform anything you want, like console log return. Say it's returning something. So it should return. Um, we can say value star 2, something like this. So let's log the result, clear the console, and let's take a look at this output. 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. Earlier for each method was not returning any arrays. It was just calling a function. Map method will call the function, and whatever computation you do will be returned as an array. So that's why we have to capture that result. You understood? So here what is that I'm performing? Since it's returning an array, I'm using return. Take every value, multiply that with a 2. So you're going to get 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. Filter method is for filtering some elements. Those elements will be returned as an array. For each method, we just call a function for each element. No array is returned. Map method is a place wherein a function is called for every element, whereas the computation is returned back as an array. So you should have this constant keyword declared whenever you are getting the result back as an array. Let's go to the next method, that is reduce method in JS. It's a very simple method, reduce method. It actually reduces an entire array. Say for instance, I'll have an array to have some values here. 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 5 ones I have. Now what reduce does is maybe you can find the sum of all the elements in the array and reduce it to a single value. So reduce method will reduce the array to a single value. That's the concept. And how is that you call reduce method is x dot reduce. Of course, you have to pass some function here. The function that we are going to pass here is say reduce function, I'll say, or else I'll say sum function, something like that. We'll find the sum of elements in the array. This thing returns a single value. It's not an array that is getting returned. So we'll say let result. It's not an array, just a single value. And then what we'll do is we'll have a function, sum function, and we'll now get the value alone. We are only worried about the value, not worried about array or the index. And here we'll do return. See again, when you're talking about reduce, there's one more argument that's coming in, total. It's actually like this, total value index array. For map filter and for each, we didn't have total. Here we are going to have total because we are reducing it to a total. So return, what is that we can do is total plus equals to, we can just do total is equal to total plus value. You're taking every value, we are assigning it to total, that will be returned to result. So what will be the final result here? It should be an addition of 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1. So 5 should be returned. Let's control S and then shift all 10, 5. There's a variation here. So this function that we are passing to reduce method will take 4 arguments. One is total. The initial value of total will be 0 here. And then value will be added to total. It is equal to sum is equal to sum plus I, the same concept here, adding. So total is used for summing up the values. You can sum up or you can multiply, you can do anything. You just reduce it to one value. And this computation will happen from the left. It will start from the left, 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1. So every time it calls a value 1, it will be passed to value here, it will be added to total. So finally result will contain whatever that is there in total. Total will be returned back. Okay. So there is also one variation to reduce, that is you can pass an initial value to your total. Say I can say call this function sum function, pass some initial value to total. So total here takes 10. So the addition will start from 10. 10 plus 5 will be now 15. So this kind of a small variation is possible. Let's run this. So you see here, where is this? Did I save this? See 15. What is this? What is the meaning here? While I'm starting to sum, I'm giving an initial value for total. Total is now 10, so it starts from 10 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1. So the output will be 15. This is the use of reduce method. There is another variation to this method called reduceRight. See, the entire concept remains the same except for the fact that the addition will start from the right side. So it start with this element, it will go to the left. From the right to the left, I'm sorry. So it will start the computation from, so this one will be taken, added to total. That next, this one will be taken, added to total. So it's going to be the computation starting from the right to the left. So that method is called reduceRight. Are you clear with this method? Reduce, right, and the variation to reduce arguments. Say you can also pass the initial value to total. Something you can pass. Can I go to the next method? We have a few methods more. That is, some more important methods are coming up. That is, we'll take a look at. Maybe we'll have an array that is not 111. Let's have 2, 1, 3, 4. Let's have some different elements here. The next method we are going to see is every method. So this method returns true or false. So it's going to be like, it's going to call a function which will check a condition against every element. Only when every element satisfies the condition, a true will be returned. If some of the elements are not satisfying the condition, then a false will be returned. So let's take a look at this. Maybe I'll call this 9. Okay. So now, how will you call this method as? You will call this method as x dot every. That's the method. And of course, you're going to call the function. I'll call this function to be check function. And what this function returns is a boolean. So I'll capture that in a variable, ret result. It's not an array, it's a boolean. And we'll code this function check function. We'll get the value alone. So again, this gets value, index, and array. So this is what is going to be the argument for this function. And what we'll do next is we'll have some condition here. Return like value greater than 1. Say what it's going to do is it's going to check every element. It's going to take 2. Check whether it is greater than 1. Is greater than 1? True. Like that, it's going to take 9. Is it greater than 1? So it's going to take every element, check against this condition. If all the elements pass this condition, what will be returned? True will be returned, or else a false will be returned. Say let's console log this. So what will be returned here? Result you will return. So when I log this out, true is returned. Why true is returned? Because every element satisfies the condition. What condition? Value greater than 1. If I say value greater than 3, will every element satisfy the condition? No. So what will be returned? A false will be returned. Are you clear with every? Every will return a boolean value, true or false. When it will return a true? When every value in the array satisfies the condition given in the function. Or else it will return a false. The opposite of every method is sum method. Sum. What is the use of sum? When some values satisfy the condition, return a true. For instance, you see, I'll call this sum, x dot sum. Value greater than 3. There are some values inside the array that satisfy this condition. What are those some values? This 9 is greater than 3, 5 is greater than 3, 6 is greater than 3. When some values satisfy the condition, the output will be a true. When none of the values satisfy the condition, the output will be a false. Can I move on to the next concept? Next concept is few more interesting methods. Sorting an array. Sort an array. So next is how you sort an array. Say you can sort an array. When it comes to sorting, every value is considered to be a string. Let's create an array here. Constant subjects we'll say. We'll have some subjects here. Let's say C. Then we'll have maybe Java will have in the first. C will have next. Next we'll have Python. Next we'll have networks. Now I want to sort this array. By default, every value is considered as a string and sorted. So how will you sort that? You call subjects dot sort. That's it. The array gets sorted, and you can log that array back. So let's log that array back. Let me clear the console and execute this. You see C, Java, networks, Python. So it got sorted. So by default, it sorts it as a string. C comes before J and N comes before P. Such kind of strategies it uses. But when you're going to sort a numeric array, see the numeric sort is a little different. Numeric sort is array of numbers. The only thing is when you have strings, no issues. But when you have it as numbers, say for instance, let's say constant x to be some number here, 33, 21, 456, 44, something like that. Maybe 723 and 44, something like this. This is not sorted, right? When I perform x dot sort, this is not going to give you the correct results. So you should not, when it's a perfect numeric data here, it's not going to give you the correct results. So it's giving here the correct results, but the truth is it's not going to give you the correct results. Let me add some more elements. I tried this, so you're going to have some 5, 6, something like that. So when you try it many times, maybe you're not going to get the correct results out. See, this is what I was telling you: 21, 33, 44, 456, 56, and 723. So it's not sorting it. So numeric sort will not work with dot sort. So for this, again, what you have to do is you have to write a function. You can call that sort function any function. And here, what is that you have to do is you have to have a function. You can call that function any function, sort function. And this function takes two arguments, x comma y. And then you have to say return x minus y. Maybe console log this x. Let's see what happens. Now it is sorted: 21, 33, 44, 56, 456, 723. So what is happening here is it's sorting by taking two values, say 56 and 33. It performs 56 minus 33. If it is greater, then it knows that the element should be swapped. So take two values. When you subtract those two values, when the value returned is a negative value, then the first element is smaller than the second element. So there is no swapping happens. So this happens for two arguments at a time, and then the entire array gets sorted. So for numeric sort, you should write a separate function. So this is sorting in the ascending order. If you want to sort it in the descending order, you just do y minus x. So this is going to sort it in the descending order. So I'll shift alt 10. You can see it's sorted in the descending order. There is another easy way to sort it in the descending order. Say if you have sorted that in the ascending order, I mean, this is also possible. There is one method called x dot reverse. So x dot reverse will reverse the array. I sorted it in the, I sorted it in the ascending order. I reverse it so that I get the descending order. Now when I console log x, it will be in the descending order. Are you all clear with array methods? What all methods we have seen? We started off with basic methods. We went through all these basic methods: push, pop, join, length, shift, unshift, slice, splice, concat. Then we went into iteration methods: filter, map, forEach, reduceRight, sum, every. So what is the difference between iteration and those basic methods? Iteration method, for every value in the array and function should be called. After that, we looked at sort. Again, for sort, we are calling a function because numeric sort will not work without a function. So here we are calling this function, passing the two arguments, finding the difference. Based on the difference, we are swapping the values. If you want to sort it in the descending order, just change the order of the values in the expression. Is this clear?